Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Now, today we're going to talk about something just a little different. Now, we all know UX design focuses on crafting amazing user experiences, right? What if I told you the same principles we use to design websites and apps and experiences, services, all of these kinds of things can be applied to designing a better, more fulfilling life? What we're talking about is you, a better you, right? That's right. See, we're going to explore how UX thinking can supercharge your personal growth and even accelerate your UX career itself. That's why this channel exists, to help you. So grab a drink, sit down, take some notes, or you can just press replay. We're going to get ready. We're going to go for it. So, our first section, our first point, understand your user. Essentially, you, yourself. Now, the very first step in UX is to always understand your user, knowing their needs, their pain points, their goals. Well, in this case, you are the user, me, we are. So before you can design a better life, you need to understand yourself. What do we mean? So some questions. What truly matters to you? What are your core values? What do you live by? What are your absolute yeses and nos? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? I mean, take some time for introspection. A Greek term coined in a very famous movie that you may have watched, temet noske, know thyself. See, this is the task you would be challenging yourself to complete. Understanding who you really are. Now, there are some practical things that we can do. Things such as journaling or meditation, even quiet reflection. These can be incredibly powerful tools for uncovering these insights, learning more about who you are, because this is what it's about. Identifying your personal definition of success. What does a fulfilling day mean to you? These are the types of things that you would want to understand and learn. So by asking yourself these questions, asking yourself things like these, you're allowing yourself to grow. And growth, personal and professional, is massively important, especially if you want to transition from a UX designer to a UX leader. So defining clear goals, user stories. So how does that work? So, okay, we've fast forwarded in time somewhat, and you've gotten better at understanding yourself. So now's the time to start defining some clear goals. Think of these as your user stories, right? So a user story in UX might be something like this. As a user, I want to be able to easily find a product I'm looking for so that I can make a purchase quickly, right? So if you've been practicing UX for some time, you're going to be very familiar with that. So translate that to your life. For example, as a person, I want to feel more energetic so that I can enjoy my free time. What we're talking about here is making your goals specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Yes, we're going back to the good old SMART goals. See, that's a framework that just doesn't lose. So why not use it? So instead of I want to be happier, try I will dedicate 30 minutes to a hobby to enjoy 3 times a week for the month, for example. So what we want to do here is we're trying to break down big, daunting goals into smaller, manageable steps. And this is what makes the overall process less overwhelming. So our third point, iterative improvement, the agile life. Now in UX, we work in iterations. We get feedback, we adjust essentially. The same approach works wonders in personal growth, in our own lives. I mean, don't expect to nail everything perfectly on the first try. No one is perfect in life. You see, life throws curveballs and we have to find ways to deal with that. So embrace the concept of continuous improvement. Uh, Embrace the concept of learning and reviewing yourself. Regularly review your progress toward your goals. I mean, what's working well? What needs to be adjusted? So be willing to experiment. Yes, experiment and adapt and learn from your experiences. So you see, it's okay to pivot if something isn't aligned with your values or just isn't producing the results that you'd hope for. And that can happen in life. So don't be disappointed when you come up against these challenges or hurdles. You see, the key is to keep moving forward. So one small step at a time. And every journey begins with one step. Remember that. So always forward. Always. So our fourth point, eliminating friction and removing pain points. So can you see we are talking about things that relate to tasks or that relate to activities that we would be carrying out or doing on a UX project. But we are looking at principles of how these can apply principally to our lives. See, learning how to understand the rules and guidelines that exist out there in the world, especially within our world of UX, if we can start to create parallel principles of understanding, this is the key to unlocking the door for growth. The absolute key. Now, UX designers are masters at removing friction. Now, we want to make a user journey to be as smooth and as effortless as possible. So, what are the pain points in your life that are holding you back? Do you find feedback irritating? Do you take it too personally? Are you too attached to your designs, your user journeys, your topology architecture diagrams, or your mind maps, or when you're doing workshops? Are you unable to handle questions on the fly? And then that becomes quite emotionally charged. See, these are things that we need to consider. These are things that we need to think about. Maybe even it's a cluttered living space that creates stress. When we think about the environment we live in, perhaps it's time consuming to commute. Maybe that's what drains your energy. Or perhaps a negative relationship that weighs you down. The point is that we have to identify whatever these sources of frictions are in our lives and then actively work to eliminate them or resolve them. See, this might involve decluttering your physical space, either your workspace or your home space, optimizing your schedule, creating clear boundaries with perhaps toxic people, or moving toward people who are positive in your life, or learning stress management techniques. See, minimizing friction allows you to focus on what truly matters. See, these are really important things in principle that can help when we translate that from our work to our life. Now, we alluded to this just a moment ago. Now, we're talking about seeking feedback. So, user testing your life. Now, many of us are familiar with this because user testing is crucial in UX. And we do this in third person really well as UX practitioners. It's very easy for us, especially if you're quite experienced or you've been working within the field of user experience for several years. What we're trying to do here is we need to understand how real users interact with our designs. Similarly, seeking feedback is essential for personal growth. Essential for personal growth. I mean, think about it. It's essential for us to improve our designs, right? Otherwise, we don't know how to create the best outcome for the customers or people we designed for. So surround yourself with people who support your goals and provide honest, constructive feedback. For example, this could be a mentor or a coach or a therapist or even just a trusted friend and family. So these are people that you could surround yourself with. Be open to hearing their perspectives, even if they're difficult to hear, right? So that does involve perhaps developing a harder skin, taking feedback that's negative and then turning that into a positive so you can grow. Remember, feedback is a gift that can help you, me, identify blind spots and refine our approach for improvement. The bigger picture, designing your life's user interface. But you see, ultimately, UX design is about creating a holistic and meaningful experience. Think about the bigger picture of your life. I mean, how do you want to spend your time? What kind of impact would you make on the world? What kind of life would you want to live? is it by consciously designing your life, and you can create a more fulfilling and purpose driven experience. See, we apply this to designs. We can apply this in principle to our own lives. See, it's about aligning ourselves, our actions with our values, and creating a user interface. So, your daily routines, your habits, and the choices that support your overall well being and happiness. Really important for us to think about, meditate on, and also think about how can these things apply in my life. So, it's about thinking about what can you or I do to put these into action into our lives today. And we've already discussed some key things of what we can do, practical steps that we can consider and act on today. So the last thing we'll talk about is a bonus, and that's the 5 stages of career progression. So this is a model. And of course, to be transparent, I'm master certified as a UX designer, specializing in many areas with this same institute as well. Now, let's talk about applying these principles and how these principles can actually boost your career itself. Now, the UX field isn't just static, it doesn't stand still. Just like our designs, just like what we do, it's a journey of continuous growth, continuous improvement. And as I mentioned, the Nielsen Norman Group outlines 5 stages of career progression. Now, understanding these stages can give you a roadmap for your own professional development and how you can be a better design practitioner. The first stage is someone who is a beginner. Now, this is really the entry point into user experience. So you're learning the fundamentals. You've gone on several courses. Perhaps you've made the mistake by going on the wrong type of course. The type of course that may promise that you can start a UX career in 3 weeks. That's not true. It doesn't work that way. There's so much to learn in UX, as we're going to talk about very briefly in a moment. But you're really at the basic level. You're understanding core principles of UX. You're understanding basic research methods, maybe just one or two, but there is so much more that you can combine, hybrid, and make different. Perhaps you've even looked into wireframes. The focus here is really acquiring knowledge and shadowing a more experienced team. This is the beginner's level. So you're looking at working with more experienced people, and then you're trying to gain more knowledge. Now, that next area is what we'd call an apprentice. At the apprentice stage, really, you're starting to apply your knowledge onto real projects, usually under supervision. And you're beginning to develop your design skills and conduct some basic user research, basically. Now, an interesting point to note here is when you're doing this, you're still heavily reliant on guidance and collaboration, and you're learning from feedback. These things are key here. But in my experience, when I've had the privilege and pleasure to train new professionals within the teams I've served, what I've found is that even myself at the beginning of my career, you would learn some core guidelines, key things that you would need to apply, rules of UX, you could say. But then you're applying them absolutely wrong. Don't do it. That's a mistake. A mistake you want to avoid as early as possible in your career. You want to learn the principles of a UX law or a UX rule, and then learn how to balance that principle with other design principles so you can create the best outcome. Practitioner, that's the next one. Now you're starting to work independently on projects. You're taking ownership of your design decisions, and you're leading smaller research efforts as well. So you're becoming a lead in design activities. You're becoming proficient in a variety of UX methods. And you can start to now justify your design choices with data. You're learning how to connect the dots. You're learning how to use user insights as well and apply what users are doing and why they're doing it to your design iterations. Now, finally, we're at this expert level. Now, you become the go-to person for solving complex UX challenges within your organization or your design team even. I mean, you're even mentoring junior designers. You're shaping the design strategy for projects, perhaps shaping the strategies for the organization because they want to be more user-centric. So you're contributing to the overall UX maturity of the organization, essentially. That you have deep expertise in one or many more areas of UX. That's expert level, but that's not the destination. Now, a leader, you're influencing the direction of UX within your organization. You're doing all the things that we talked about before at those other levels, but you're advocating for user-centered design, user-centric design at a strategic level. And you're managing UX teams, you're managing different parts of the organization, and you are helping them to understand how they can use UX from a principled and strategic level and apply that to any part of the business, any department as well. So you're communicating to the broader audience, the broader UX community through thought leadership and mentorship, perhaps doing so even outside of your organization as well. Thinking of your UX career as a design problem, it really does help, right? Mapping the rules and guides to principles. This is what we're doing. So identify where you are, where you want to be, and what skills you need to develop to get there. Use user testing to seek out mentors and to help you on your journey to growth and success. So there you have it. I really hope this video inspired you to think about your life in a new way and how UX can really impact you on a personal and professional level. Remember, you are the designer of your own experience. So by understanding yourself, setting clear goals, embracing iteration, eliminating friction, and seeking feedback, and focusing on the bigger picture, you can create a life that's both meaningful and fulfilling. Now, what are your biggest takeaways from this video? Share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that we get to produce. And feel free to write in the comments what you want us to talk about next. Thanks for watching. Stay present, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.